very excited to be doing this review for what I think is a great opening for a season. I'm here with Larry and Spencer. I'm Brian, and this is Pulp Mythos. We're going to be talking about The Mandalorian's Season 2 premiere. But before we get to that, if you've not subbed to the channel, please do so. Really helps us out. Hit that thumbs up, hit the bell, leave a comment if you have something you want to say. The channel, we've had a great week this week. The Undoing is doing phenomenal. Fargo's doing well. Even the Bly Manor review we just posted is doing pretty good. So, channel's growing. We appreciate everyone who's been subbing, and we're going to start this review with. I'm going to give a quick little statement about. In the past, we've talked about how whether or not Star Wars can be done without lightsabers and Jedi and Sith, and things like that. And I think this episode, more so than almost any, proves that yes, it can be, and it can be done very well. To me, this represents that conversation, or that argument at least. Uh, Agree, disagree?
Absolutely agree. Yeah, I was gonna say they did, and me and you have talked about this. We've all talked about this together. The fact that this is, to me, Star Wars. If you want to expand to it not just being, the Skywalker family, this is the way to do it. This is a perfect thing that doesn't really have. I mean, obviously, you got Baby Yoda that's force sensitive, but there is no Jedi's. There's not anything going on other than it. It is like a Western sci-fi, which they're not the first ones to ever do it. So I'm not going to pretend like, Firefly and all that shit didn't come before this. However, this is my favorite representation of that genre so far.
They certainly didn't have the budget. The budget on this thing is impressive.
That's my favorite. Not just because of the budget, but I love the way that they are doing this show. I think this is a perfect, and those are two of my favorite genres, sci-fi and Western. Like, I love Westerns. So this is a great pairing of the two, and I really enjoy it.
Right, and there's always kind of been that feel in Star Wars, with the cantina scenes and everything. You've always had kind of a Western feel to it to some degree, when you're not dealing with Jedi. And it's such a big universe, and there's so many little stories that have been told in the expanded universe and everything that, we don't necessarily need Jedi. There's so many little things in there. And the tech is, it's so futuristic and everything. You can still have that feel of Star Wars without having, the space wizardry that goes on in all the movies and most of the media.
Yeah, completely agree. Before this show, like, the only thing I thought that sort of did this was Rogue One, a lot of the space battle stuff. But even at the, to argue against that, I mean, the best part of that movie was, I thought, Vader killing a bunch of dudes with his lightsaber. But the space stuff was cool. I don't think they went as far with the spy stuff as they could have. But like you said, this is, I mean, this episode, let's focus on the episode. And full spoilers ahead, by the way. The episode was titled The Marshal. And the first half of the episode is very much straight up, it's a Western. I mean, it is shot like a Western. The dialogue is like a Western. All the aspects of it are very Western-esque. And then the second half is this amazing story of two tribes who hate each other uniting to fight a dragon, literally. And it's just done so well. And like I said, it was just a fun hour of entertainment, or 52 minutes of entertainment.
Well, I think you just said it, the start of it being almost like a traditional Western. And then you mentioned Rogue One and all like the spy stuff. Although I don't disagree. I think that Vader killing everybody was a pretty damn cool scene. However, it wasn't the focus. Vader wasn't the focus of Rogue One. Just like there is no Jedi focus in this, they're focusing on all the kind of, the Western aspects, the spy aspects, the underhanded, backroom deal aspects and stuff like that. And I think that is a different take on Star Wars. And to me, I like it better.
I have a question for both of you, connecting directly to what you just said. Do you think because there are hints clearly that Jedi or Force users and lightsabers and all that will come this season. Are you for that or against that? Do you think that will hurt the show, or what are your thoughts on the idea that we probably will in fact see that aspect of Star Wars in the Mandalorian?
Well, I think they should, especially. I think they should be more subtle with it. If anything, we're going to get Jedi, if we're going to get Ahsoka and whatnot, just maybe don't go all out, or it might be good for maybe a one-off or a couple of episodes, but don't let it take over the series. The whole idea of having Force users there, like I would hate to have the show go to a place where there's like a permanent Force user, like on his crew or in his group of friends and whatnot. Like it's cool having Ahsoka there in the live action thing, in the way that it seems like they're going to have her there, where it seems like we're going to get a spin-off out of this. But what's cool about this show, as you mentioned before, is because it is so grounded, and yet it does still feel very, very much like it's Star Wars still.
Yeah, I mean, we know that Ahsoka's coming, okay? And I think that they will probably limit her screen time just because they are trying to do several other shows, and I think hers is one of them from the rumor mill. Anyway,
based on the rumors,
that's one of the ones that they're planning on doing. So, which will be good. I just don't want them to focus on that in this series, because didn't Jon Favreau say that he wants it to be similar to Game of Thrones, where it's 8 different storylines going on, and then they all kind of tie into one of the central stories there towards the end? Because if I remember correctly, that's what he said. So I have no issues with this series being the one that's sans Jedi. I would enjoy it to be that way, because you could still have a Western-y type thing with Jedi involved, but to me it takes away the vibe of this series. It is very much even the music, everything, taking place on out in the desert, like when he rolled into town on this one. It's the way it was shot, it looks like when they come into town on a horse and they're like looking around and waiting for that high noon at the OK Corral, the quick shot duel or whatever, and it feels like that. And I think if you put a Jedi into it, it changes it from that to more of a old school like samurai vibe. And the two can intertwine. They've proven they've been able to do it, but I would like this series to be more of the Western style.
Right,
and like geographically, I mean Western as in like Western.
Like, and Ahsoka is such a powerful Jedi at that if it's her that it kind of focuses on as well, then that really would take a lot from the Mandalorian and his very grounded story. And now every little incident becomes like, well, why don't we have the Jedi do Jedi stuff instead?
Yeah, why don't you just have her go kill somebody? Why?
True. I believe it's episode 5. I could be wrong on that, but we know Dave Filoni is doing an episode. I want to say it's 5 of this season, and the assumption is if Ahsoka pops up, that's the one, because that's his creation. So I think they basically confirmed today that she was in the show, but no real details. Speaking of other characters on the show, a big rumor was Timothy Olyphant was not only on the show, but that he would be donning the Boba Fett armor. This was a leak that came out months ago. Completely proven true in this first episode. So the Mando's finds his way back to Tatooine because he hears there's a Mandalorian there, and he needs to seek out Mandalorians in order to track down Jedi, basically, because he needs to reunite the child, or Baby Yoda, with his people. And so Timothy Olyphant debuts as a character, the Marshal. His character's name was Cobb Vanth, I believe. I got that from the internet. They say it real quickly. What'd y'all think of his whole performance, his whole, what it was he was doing in this?
See, I didn't remember hearing that he was going to be putting on the armor. I did hear that he was going to be in the show, but as soon as I heard his voice, like it was confirmed for me immediately. Because I remember you saying that, Brian, that they had rumored that. But as soon as I heard his voice, I got super excited. And then when he took the helmet off, it basically reconfirmed it because the Mandalorian, they've
the rumor
that they're not supposed to take it off.
Yeah, the rumor was that
like,
he was Boba Fett, and that was confusing when the rumor came out because people were like, "What do you mean he's Boba Fett? That doesn't make any sense." But now we get it.
And I loved how, even with his clothes underneath, the armor, he still kind of kept the color scheme, which I thought was really cool too.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a good performance. It was a neat character, and it's a neat little setting, a neat little one-off that, even if you did want to revisit it, there's still some very neat things you could do with that. And it does seem like, we'll be coming back to these particular towns and areas, maybe in another season at some point. It was a pretty good performance overall.
I like how we get the flashback sequence where he's explaining what happened immediately after the Empire fell. We even get them watching it on, I guess, a view screen or whatever of the Death Star blowing up. I love him referring the second Death Star. I liked all that interaction and the power vacuum and the miners, basically seizing control and all that stuff. How did you feel about not only the story itself, but the technical side of it, the flashback? We don't get a lot of flashbacks in Star Wars, so the fact that it was told in a flashback, which yet again reminded me of a Western, the way that all played out.
Yeah, I like that too. I love the fact that they showed it instead of just had him monologue, because they could have easily just had him monologue as they were riding along, and I thought that's where we were going with it until we got the flashback. Very cool. I loved actually seeing that. Like you said, love to throw back to the Death Star blowing up and everything, and just the idea of seeing the ramifications, like you said, of there being a power vacuum there. It's like, well, someone's going to try to take advantage of that, and as he mentioned, they didn't even get a chance to finish celebrating before that started.
Yeah, it's crazy how quick it happened, and they literally just found out about the news of the second Death Star being destroyed and a group of people come in. Like, it just happened. And like you said, Larry, they didn't even get a chance to really celebrate prior to the mining company coming in and taking over.
The Mandalorian got his information from this. I don't even know what world they were on, but it was a cool sequence. It was the opening of it. Basically, the guy had information. There's a cool action scene. We get to what was the name of that missile system he has in his arm that shoots all the little tiny.
Oh, the whistling birds. Yeah.
Yeah, the thing. We get to see that on display again. A little comedy with Baby Yoda closing himself in. I just thought I like the costuming. I just like the way it looked. It looked like Star Wars. It's set in a Star Wars setting. Any thoughts on that? I sort of glossed over it, but I didn't have a whole lot to say as far as the way that scene played.
Other than liking it, there wasn't a lot, plot wise. It just showed where he got the information, but I love that it shows that he's connected to a bunch of everybody knows who he is, and it doesn't have much to do with the armor. But that armor, which in the first season, they told him it's going to draw a lot of attention. All that Beskar steel is going to draw a lot of attention, and immediately the shitty, underhanded criminal people he was trying to get information from immediately tried to turn it on him and take it from him. So I thought it was kind of interesting to show that little bit of foreshadowing came true.
Yeah, and it's just, it seems like it's a thing that may be a consistent issue for him throughout the series, and the fact that it basically, it's like if you walked around, just covered in a bunch of gold bars.
Yeah, yeah, that is true. I like the nice, and I knew when he said it, it was all set up, but it was cool. We the Mandalorian walks in, all badass, real slow, and you see these creatures, their eyes in the dark, and then when he ties the guy up, he's like, "I promise I will not kill you with my own hands," or whatever, and it's like, yeah, he's gonna kill him, but not directly, and then he shoots out the light, and these creatures descend upon the guy. So I thought that was, it was cool.
Right.
The armor. So when the Marshal, I love the way he sits down calmly, offers a drink, takes off the helmet, and basically is like, "Look, I know the rules. I know you want this." Um, and I just like how practical he was about the whole situation, and then creating the bargain and everything. I love the performance. I like you said. I hope this character we see again. Now I have one major question about the character. His skills are pretty damn good, like better than good, and that was something I was hoping they would give us a little more background on. Do you think there's anything to that, or he's just naturally good? Do you think there's any force implications there, or do you think he has a background that he didn't tell us about? Because even when he took those miners out that it sees control, he just walked in there and took them all out. And the ending battle, which we'll get to later, his skill level was pretty damn high, I thought. So yeah, what did you guys, did that ring any?
Well, it did with me.
He's
Yes,
clearly not a trooper. He was able to hit his mark.
Yeah, seemingly every time, and it's the sort of thing where, like you said, either there's some force sensitivity there that he doesn't know about to some degree, or the situation, or he has some prior training. Because there's definitely a backstory there to the point where it's like you could, it would be interesting to see that, or to get it in comic form or something, like, because he's received some kind of training, or he's force sensitive. It's got to be one or the other, because to just walk in a room even with that armor and take out all those people, and just to be that ready for that situation.
I thought it was interesting for them to say he was the Marshal. So when we think of that, you think of like Westerns or cops or whatever, but I don't know of any other Star Wars entity that has like police forces. They have, the Empire's there or the Rebellion's there, but they don't really have like city police. So I don't know that they've established that there is one. So who's to say he's not one of those people? They just haven't really covered it.
Well, yeah. The Empire, I think, has police and whatnot. I think we've seen some on like Coruscant, that there's a local police force and everything. But
I didn't know if they mentioned that they were police or if they were just stormtroopers, because it's martial law. Everywhere that the Empire was, it was ruled by the military.
Yeah, it's basically like a military police, but at the same, I'm trying to remember anything.
Actually, you may be right. I might be thinking about Clone Wars.
Yeah, and see, that's the problem, because I'm trying to think pre-Empire, or even because even like Naboo had like a force of police or whatever you want to call them. So yeah, I don't know. And most of my knowledge is legends now. It's not canon, so I don't know.
But yeah, and my question there would also be, was he Marshal before the events that led him to his armor and reclaiming his town, or did they make him Marshal afterwards?
Yeah, because even the way he escaped, because at first that flashback, there was a part of me that was like, oh, is he full of shit? Is he trying to throw him off? Is this a lie? But then later, the more he was in combat situations, like, damn, this dude is legit. And so I was like, no, he really is skilled and able to do a lot of these things. So yeah, I don't know, but he never declared, hey, I was this or I was that or I was in the military or whatever.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I just thought of something too, though, because if this is supposed to take place after Return, after Boba Fett fell in the Sarlacc pit and everything, but what if Boba Fett's been training him? What if he kind of helped him? Because if he's donning that armor, Boba Fett doesn't want his reputation to go under. Now, they did imply that, he got it from somewhere else, that it wasn't, Boba who gave it to him and stuff. But I'm thinking that...
Unless that was a lie.
Maybe not necessarily... Well, maybe it's not even Boba Fett, but it's another mercenary
Well,
or something like that.
he
It's
and
Well,
this is
that
just me completely just throwing out a random crazy idea, but he gives in that story one of the most important parts was he was in the desert about to die, and then he was saved, and the savior was the Jawas. But what if
mhm.
it wasn't the Jawas? Like I don't think that's a
yeah,
crazy idea. What if it was Boba Fett who saved him, and then take my armor? And this is a story we'll learn later. Like I said, I'm just pulling this out of my ass, but I do,
Well. Here's the thing, y'all may be onto something here because, to skip ahead, since we're covering the whole episode
Oh yeah,
anyway,
go ahead.
to
Yeah,
skip ahead a bit, we see towards at the end of this episode, watching them, what appears to be, well, what we would assume is Boba Fett
yeah.
with
I'm
the
assuming.
yeah,
yeah, and he seems to have like sand people gear and everything, like he's been there in the desert for a while. So there's a chance that, given that what happened in the original trilogy and everything, that his reputation maybe tarnished to some degree, or maybe that matters to him less at this point in his life because it's been a while, and it could be the sort of thing that maybe he, like you said, he either trained him or saved him in the desert or something like that, or that he's clearly watching them for some reason. So
exactly.
are we looking at a more benevolent Boba Fett here?
Well, because clearly he's watching them, which means he knows where.
He know
In other words, he could have got his armor back if he wanted it.
anytime he wanted,
Yeah,
anytime he wanted, but
I
yet
agree.
he's choosing to stay there and seemingly, if Spencer's correct, pull an Obi-Wan. Just
Damn. Yeah, I think of that.
stay and watch and and aid indirectly.
So let's talk about that dragon,
Yeah.
the crate dragon. I was blown away by the production values of the CG of the effects, because that was movie quality in my opinion. I was
Talking about the sandworm.
yes, well yeah, but the whole ending battle. Oh well, so when they first introduce it, I'm laughing because I'm like, Tremors, it's cool. It's coming through the ground, and it straight reminded me of Tremors, and which was cool. And then, yeah, obviously the Dune comparisons as well. But the fact, once they got into that battle at the end, I mean the effects on it. I mean, it looked like you were watching a film, not a television show. The only time it had that more TV quality is sometimes when the camera would point at the ground and you would see the actors standing there. Some of those shots had more of a TV quality, but a lot of the actual battle, or when they're flying around it, that was more film to me. But um, yeah, I was really impressed.
I agree, and their whole plan to take it out. Like you mentioned it earlier, the all the different tribes and all the different people working together to take this one thing out, for the greater good of that area. And it's something that they were all fearful of. It's something that's been terrorizing all of these people, and they were able to come together to, conquer this one thing. And how they were able to do it, the plan, how unsuccessful slash successful slash unsuccessful slash finally successful plan went into place, and it was so well done. And we talked about it at work today, Brian, the part where he hits Timothy Oliphant in the jetpack, and he like flies off just like Boba did. So there's like a lot of little nods to the original series while completely being its own thing. That whole end sequence, I love the whole episode, but that end sequence, like you said, was movie quality, and it's impressive to watch, and also to know that we're getting several more episodes that hopefully will be just as good.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned the jetpack thing too, because we were talking about it earlier also, and it's the sort of thing that it feels like in the universe now. Okay, this is a flaw that uh, Mandalorians know about to some degree, and with the jetpacks, but it's hard to exploit. Like maybe unless you're unless you know this equipment very well, you wouldn't know to exploit it, or unless you're, I don't know, a Jedi. It's so it's a little cool thing that the Mandalorian knew to do that. And I did want to mention again, like you back to the scene, and I know this is going back to the beginning of the episode. But I do think it was cool also that the Marshal didn't do the usual television trope thing of pretending to be a Mandalorian, to scare people away from the town. He wasn't trying to BS him because he knew he couldn't. You know, like he sat down, tried to have a drink, and just laid it out straight. He's like, "I know who you are. I know what you want. Let's talk about this. I think you're different for these reasons. Like maybe we can talk it out." Like, but
Yeah,
because it would have been a trope.
because it helped him.
Yeah, exactly. Because it would have been a trope for him to pretend to be a Mandalorian and to fake it and everything. And then we get towards the end of the episode, and he's proven himself to some degree, and then the Mandalorian just lets him keep the armor. That kind of thing happens on television a little too much, and they chose not to go to that direction. Luckily.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Matter of fact, there were several points in the episode where I didn't know where it was going to go next, and which is always enjoyable. Let's talk about the Tusken Raiders. They're in, they're part of the lore. Everybody knows what who the Tusken Raiders are, but this one, gave us a little more, and let us sort of understand them a little more. I love when the Mandalorian, tells the people of the town, Mos Pelgo. He's like, look, yes, they're a little harsh, but they're survivors. Yes, they're raiders, but they're survivors, and this planet is hell. And in order to survive, you're got to be a little harsh. And basically, then I love him brokering the peace. And even down to the specifics of they will maintain the ceasefire as long as one of you don't break it. I even like that little extra line, basically, warning them and letting them know they'll stick to they're honorable in that way. But, you screw that up and that, it's your ass. It's on you. But I like that he could communicate with them. I like digging into how they operate, how their tribe works. The amount of them that were willing to put their lives on the line for the tribe and sacrifice themselves, essentially. I mean, the guy that walked all the way to the cave, I was like, fuck that, but he did it for his tribe. So I liked all that stuff. What y'all think of?
That's it. I thought about that, and I was like, that they had that many people, and no one thought maybe to, I don't know, to just kind of pin the bantha there, and then from a distance, just like shoot it in the ass or something, so that it makes noise instead of sacrificing this guy.
Yeah, it was. I agree.
Well, and like you said, honorable. This guy just takes one for the team without a second thought. It was not it had to be done. Now, he didn't have to die. Like, there probably could have been some other ways to do it, but for him to not even hesitate just to do it, to me showed, like you said, a different side of their people that we haven't seen in anything else. They're always, kind of seen as the bad guys. But I think that this show, Mandalorian, does a great job of showing, yes, he's kind of like the anti-hero. He's not a great guy. He does a bunch of illegal and bad shit, but it kind of, those gray lines that we walk every day, it kind of sheds it in a different light, and it helps expose and explain some of the other
you get to see a lot of the other cultures, and yeah,
and like these sub characters from the other series that weren't important in those series, are raised up in this series and helped explain a lot more, and I like that.
Well, yeah, because it's like in the movies, the Sand People are basically, I mean, well, they're kind of like 80s action movie ninjas. They're there to be an obstacle that's easily dispensed. Yeah.
They're like the foot soldiers in the Ninja Turtle movies.
Yeah, there you go. and it is neat to see, culture from these things, and like from characters and species that you don't normally see in Star Wars, because you got an entire movie to film, and it's and you don't have time for those things. This is part of why I really don't want a big focus on the Jedi in this series. Because
we have 9 movies full of that shit.
Very true. We have 9 movies, and we have a ton of lore, and there's there's a whole universe, literally a whole universe that we've only explored small pockets of. And if we can do that sans the Jedi, I feel like you can tell a smaller story, but you can get a bigger piece of parts of the lore that you just never touch on.
Well, and like you said too, Larry, you not only do we have the 9 movies, look at the Clone Wars cartoon, which focuses on Anakin and Ahsoka, and those are all Jedi too. So a lot of the stuff that's canon now that we've seen exposes a lot of the Jedi lore and talks about the Jedi, and they've spent very little time on. Oh, the Clone Wars did like a season and a half on the Mandalorian, so I won't say that the Mandalorians aren't explained a whole lot, but it's kind of cool to see other, like we said, the Tusken Raiders. We saw the Jawas. There's been episodes with them explaining, them a lot more in depth. The Twi'leks with the 2, I don't remember their names, but it's Tonks from Harry Potter and Osha from Game of Thrones. She was the Twi'lek that double crossed him or whatever. But you got to see those people. So it shows a lot of different aspects of a lot of these different people's cultures that we didn't get to see in Star Wars a lot. So I do like that they show that in this series as opposed to what they've done in the past movies and cartoons.
Right.
The dragon, I also want to touch, talked about it earlier, but the several phases to that battle, which I thought was cool. It was a multi-phase battle. They're trying to drag it out, and then all of a sudden it starts throwing new tricks at them. It can spew out this like venom, acid, whatever it was. I was like, oh shit! And then it burrows under the ground and goes up the mountain, and they have to fly up there. And I just love the fact that it was multi-parts. It wasn't just a quick 1 minute cool shot. It was a lengthy actual battle.
What the hell did they think they were going to do with those stupid harpoon gun things?
The fact that they were physically pulling the ropes. It's like, yes, that was the plan.
Yeah, I thought it was gonna be like a machine that reeled them in or something, or that was surprising. Yeah, that they were physically tugging on the ropes.
Well, I think that they've kind of like a fish. They caught the big one. They didn't want to let it go. Instead of just being like, well, fuck it, it's going to get away.
Did you suspect when they built the little model and they were, talking about the scale and all that, and he was like, it's bigger, and, they were disputing the size of it. Did you feel that they were implying that there was a second one? That because I kept thinking, oh, there's another one too, and that'll be the big, shock at the end is they'll think they defeated it and another one will appear. Did that ever cross your minds, or was it just me?
Well, no, I just kind of thought. Well, I didn't think that he had ever seen the full scale of it. That he only sees it dips its head. He sees it when it comes to town and dips its head up to eat a bantha. Was my assumption. So he didn't really understand the scale of the creature.
I didn't necessarily think that there was 2, but I didn't know if they, like Larry just said, the head just kind of pops up. It doesn't breach fully out of the water like a shark.
Sort of like Tremors. They just have the one. Yeah, you don't know what it looks like.
They didn't really know how big it was. They didn't, which to me was even, plays into the story a little bit too. The fact that they are going after this thing is being as brave as they are and have no idea what they're really fighting. They have a vague idea of, maybe the size or something like that, but they really did not know certainly what they were up against. And I thought that showed how brave that they were as a collective to still stand there and fight that thing.
So if this is in fact Boba Fett, which I'm pretty sure it is, it's either him or a clone. It's, but this is Boba Fett. We'll just say it is. Where do we go from here? When do you think?
Rex.
I mean, it could be. I doubt it. I'm pretty sure it's Boba Fett, but it could be. But if it is Boba Fett, where do we go from here? When does he appear again? Do you think this is something we won't see until the end of the season, or do you think we're going to see it sooner?
it's hard to say at this point because we have so little on it. But I mean, heck, for all we know, that might pop up next episode. You know,
Could. Yeah.
how long is he going to be on this world? Like, is he leaving it immediately now that he feels like he had a sort of a false lead? Like, but then again, he may not feel that way because the lead was kind of correct. He found Mandalorian armor, and I would imagine his assumption would be that perhaps there's a Mandalorian, but on the other hand, knowing his customs and everything, he also knows that for the most part, no actual Mandalorian would leave that armor, without dying. So I guess he would assume that if there was a Mandalorian there, now that Mandalorian is dead.
You think he'll investigate that? Did
That's what I was going to say. I think.
How did it end? I can't remember. Did he leave at the end, or it didn't show him fly off? Did it?
Didn't show him fly off. He just left the town.
Yeah,
I think it just showed him going off on the.
That's right. He was
speeder
on
bike.
The speeder, and then that's when. Yeah.
And then Boba was sitting up on. Well, we're assuming it's Boba Fett. Is sitting up on the little mountainside watching him, and he turns around.
So yeah, it could absolutely pick up in the next episode. That's a good point.
I hope so, just because I don't know if they'll end up trying to have him be the central villain now, or because Moff Gideon is still that is right? Isn't it Gideon?
It's Gideon.
Yes.
Gideon. Okay.
Warden of the Galaxy, I believe is what he called himself in an interview, which is a cool title.
But he's still the main bad guy, but does that mean that the Mandalorian's going to try to find Boba, and then maybe they'll team up to try and find? Because there was rumors that IG-88 was going to be in this season. Like, there's a lot of rumors of other bounty hunters. But I think that it would help to have Boba on board to try and get those other guys. So I think that perhaps he does not necessarily join the crew this next episode, but we will get more of him here very soon, I think.
Yeah, I think so. I think that'll happen, and it's the sort of thing where he'll probably wind up following them for a while. Like we saw him watch for a distance, so I imagine he'll try to figure out what his whole deal is before he does anything. Whether he's a friend or a foe. So we may get a few episodes of Boba Fett watching him.
That is all my notes. Any other topics you want to talk about regarding episode or chapter 9? They're calling it the Marshal.
No, I just liked it for the reasons we discussed. But you kept saying it was a great hour of entertainment, and I can't think of a much better way to describe it. Everything about it are things that I like. and it was just very well done. Like you said, Brian, the budget, Larry alluded to, some of the story plot lines that I think that are going to come to fruition that I'm super excited about. So this, I think, was a great start to season 2, and I'm really looking forward to see what Jon Favreau has on board. And I'm really interested to see because I looked on IMDb before this season started, and they didn't announce who the directors were. And each episode was supposed to be a different director, except for 5 we knew it was Filoni, because we're assuming that that's the Ahsoka. But I am interested to see who's directing what episodes this season.
Yeah, I don't know who's directing, but Favreau wrote every episode except 2.
Which I think is awesome also, because, we talk about some shows having continuity issues. That kind of helps alleviate it when it's one person controlling a vast majority of it.
Yeah, and I'm just glad that I got the same feel from this episode that I've gotten from every other episode of The Mandalorian, because I was worried about that with the show coming back. Would they be off their game? Could they, just sort of recapture that feeling that you got with season 1, that this is something that Star Wars always needed, and they managed to continue that, and it was still, a very good episode, much in the vein of every episode of the first season. So looking forward to the next one.
And on that note, yeah, I also enjoyed the episode, and hope you enjoyed our conversation about the episode. Like I said up front, if you've not subbed to the channel, please do so. And we're going to be doing these every single week throughout the duration of this season. Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye.